Hello guys, I'm Ray from HashKey, and yeah, we are like an private investment company focused on like all sector in blockchain area. Founded at 2018, and we already actively invest for more than 215 projects, even about like $1 billion US. So welcome to the Searcher and Builders panel. And what if like everyone just introduce yourself first? Let's start with Tokka Lab.
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Howe. I am founder and CEO of Tokka Labs. We are a proprietary trading firm based in Singapore, and I think we do a lot of DeFi strategies, right? We do RFQ on, let's say, 1inch, 0x, right? We do, solving on, let's say, Uniswap X. We do it on 1inch Fusion, right? We do some searching, some block building as well, right? Happy to be here and talking to everyone.
Hey, I'm Tom. I run Rsync-Builder, amongst other things. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Bowen. I'm the penguin on the screen. So Smrti Lab is a crypto hedge fund that we invest in Flashbot, Pre-MEV, many of the MEV projects. I used to co-found a project called DDEX, which is an on-chain order book, a decentralized exchange on Ethereum. Back in the days, we do like on-chain market making between SEX and DEXs.
Hi, my name is Max Resnick. I'm the head of research at Special Mechanisms Group. We do MEV research. We're particularly interested in PBS. I always say we're like the announcers or the sports announcers for the guys who are on the panel who are actually in the arena, but we're kind of the announcers, and we like to catalog what's going on in the space and post it on Twitter.
Hey guys, I'm Jiawei from Rsync Ventures. I mostly look into MEV space, modular stack, roll up, this kind of infrastructure things. Rsync Ventures invested in Flashbots, Blocknative, Primev, and in other MEV deals. So very nice to be here.
Yeah, all right. Welcome you guys. Actually, I'm preparing like 3 sections here. I think I got almost like 12 questions, so I think if we can go through everything there. The first part is about like block building. I think in the first part of the speech, earlier time and said the order flow is the king of the MEV supply chain. So what's your guys' thought? I think we can start with like block builder Tom.
Sure, I guess like there is a base level of competency you need in order flow. That said, like I wouldn't say it's the only thing that matters. I guess like everyone competes along a few different verticals, and order flow is one of them, and it's the hardest to overcome the like initial barrier to entry, I guess.
Yeah, what do you think? Yeah, I think we can. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for those who don't have context, right, Rsync is one of the biggest builders in the space, right? I think for us, I think order flow is extremely important, right? I think as what Tom mentioned, right, this is probably the biggest barrier. Once you get past this barrier, how do you get that order flow? You are in the cloud. Right now, then you can compete on other things. But if you don't even have that order flow, it's going to be very tough, right? So I mean, for a builder that's starting, you may get lucky. You may get a few blocks here and there. If you you get lucky, right? You get some very juicy transactions. But otherwise, you have to solve that order flow problem.
Yeah. So you guys just sending the private transaction to the block builder, right? For the like you guys more like a searcher, right? So I'm curious, like. What's the percentage for like the typical searcher sending to the block builder, or like a transaction from, I mean for the block builder's perspective, just like a transaction from the meme pool or the private transactor, private channel, I mean, yeah.
Okay, so this is our research, right? Yeah. We find that maybe more than 80% of the value of a block comes from these kind of private transactions, right? These exclusive flows probably give them most value, but I think Tom probably has a better sense of it.
Like how much value comes from?
How much like percentage of the like transaction from the private one or from the like public meme pool?
I guess it depends on the block a lot.
Typically.
Sorry?
I mean typically like
I don't know off the top of my head, but like I guess like my expectation is that interesting blocks are mostly just bundles that pay for the entire block.
I think, yeah, I mean, there's two like things to make sure that we're clearing up here. One of them is like, there's multiple types of private flow. One of them is flow that's from external bundle submitters and flow that's from internal bundle submitters. And I also think like, you might say that something is a bundle, even though the actual MEV involved is like exploiting a transaction that was circulated in the public mempool. And then searchers will go in the mempool, grab it, put it together with their own transactions, and then it looks private, right? It's a submitted bundle, then it's private flow, but is it really private at that point? It was a public mempool transaction that made it there. You know?
Gotcha. So I guess know like how many like block builder are there in the space? I think it's a very limited number, right? So like, what's the difficulty to like become the block builder, or like I mean, what is like a basic requirement that either the physical or like the understanding of the map to become the block builder?
So I guess I think at SMG we built one block. So just to demonstrate something, so it's not very hard. It took us like an hour to figure it out, how to spin up our own builder. But I don't know if that's what we're asking, right? Are we asking how hard is it to build a block if you want one? Well, if you have like 2 hours to spare, you're moderately technical, and you want to make a point on Twitter, you can do it in like 2 hours for $100 or less, right? And you can build a block. But that doesn't mean that you're actually building a block, right? You're not actually competing with the top players. You're just kind of subsidizing and outbidding them. So I think the entry level is it's easy to play, it's easy to learn the rules, but it's very hard to be good.
Yeah, understand. So what is like a typical return to like building a block? Yeah.
Well, for us, we get to post about it on Twitter, and that's good. I think other people have different motives. You wanna? Yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
The question is like, what's the typical return for building a block? Like several, like one finger of ease or 2 finger of ease, or?
I mean, I guess directly from block building, it's pretty transparent. You can just look on like Relay Scan and see what people kind of profited, I guess.
Yeah.
Or is the question slightly different?
Like ask me how much you make per block.
Yeah, how much can be earned like, for the building block?
So I think it really depends on the block. Some of the most volatile blocks where there's the most arbitrage actually have very high profit margins, just because some of the searchers don't have enough money on chain to like do the size of transaction that needs to happen. So in some of those cases, you can get like quite a bit of profit, like in the tens of thousands of dollars. But I think the average block itself sells for about 0.4, 0.5 ETH or something. And that has kind of very little profit because there's a bunch of other people bidding in the auction against you.
I guess I'd say the average block is like the median block is loss making because people are willing to pay through just for the like advertisement.
Got it.
This, again, as I said, I'm not sure, right? But someone told me that the average block builder, right, probably makes like what, $5
$5
per block.
Oh.
That's it. Yeah. I'm not sure how accurate the data is, but someone told me this. Yeah, don't be surprised.
Maybe -5, I don't know.
Max is 5, okay.
Because a lot of blocks are subsidized, if you actually see it.
Cool.
Yeah. I think like Tom was saying that probably the average block loses money for whoever built it because you get to paste your like signature into the extra data. And then this is very important when you're fighting for order flow because you get to go turn around and say, we won 10% of blocks. Well, you paid $5 for each of those blocks, but you did win them. So then you do get the advantage from winning even if you're paying for it.
Yeah, understand. So the next part of the question is about like the DEX and DEX arbitrator, and I think it's like the most important part in the either block building and searcher. A lot of searcher just from like a high frequency trading company, and they just sending the transaction regarding like stacks and DEX arbitrager and send to the block builder. So I think Max just did like excellent research last month regarding this part. So can you give us like some status about this and like the impact for the whole MEV supply chain?
So sorry, what's the
I mean, like you just finished like the research about the stacks and DEX arbitrager part. So can you just give us like an intro about like result and status for this part, and also the impact for the whole MEV like supply chain or yeah.
Yeah, I think I actually get this question sometimes, like, why do you care? Like, are you just watching for fun on chain to see what the sexdex is? And that's like part of my motivation because it's pretty cool. I'm like kind of watching it like I watch college football sometimes. But also I think it's really important to look at what goes on chain, especially in this top of block market, because we have this really important unsolved problem, LVR mitigation and redistribution. And the players that we need to compete to do that, to do like the mechanisms that we want to do to solve LVR redistribution, are right now competing in an auction, which looks very similar to the kind of auction that we want to do to solve LVR. It just so happens that the proposer is running it and getting all the profit. But if we could make somebody else get the profit, it would be kind of an auction that looks exactly like the one we're seeing now, with almost exactly the same players. And so we want to look at the kind of the design of the system and see, do the sexdex arbitrage bots and teams and builders, does the system work well? Does it actually drive a lot of revenue to the auction or not? So that it can assist us in the design of kind of LVR mitigation strategies, which is something I've been interested in and working on for a long time.
Understand, yeah.
So we started to do central exchange and decentralized exchange arbitrage since in 2017. They have like two differences. Whether you have inventory or you don't have inventory. So if you have inventory, you take principal risk on the inventory you take, how many ERC20 tokens you stake, and how much amount you actually put in that. And you are actually doing it statistically, earning profits, and you have to minimize, well, it's not impermanent loss, but you have a principal loss. It totally depends on the taker volumes throughout the day. You can charge 30 bips on the inventory. You can charge like 100 bips on the really long tail token. So speaking from that, the profit level for a DEX arbitrager firm is very case by case. Back in the days when DYDX was starting from, they were kind of mirroring the order book from Coinbase, Prime, and also like Binance to basically 100% mirroring, so that they have like two inventory, one in central exchange, one on DEX's private wallets. They have like private key management system, very much like Fireblock. But it totally depends on the taker volumes.
So like special question for you, like who lost the money for the arbitrager? Who lost the money?
Well, of course the directional better.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say like they lost money. They just have like a directional wheel.
Exactly.
The LPs lose the money, okay? Period. Like if you're trading and somebody trades against you and they take a profitable trade, you're losing money. It's not like rocket science. It's just a zero-sum game at the end of the day. Just because the price is moving, this confuses some people, but at the time that the trade happened or shortly thereafter, the trade was incredibly profitable for the arbitrager, then it probably wasn't very profitable for you, right?
I kind of disagree with it. I don't think that trading in this way is like necessarily a zero-sum game for these two participants, because you assume that the LP is rebalancing and trading in the same way as like a market maker would. And I don't think that is really true. Like if you are a fund, say, and you just want to like take a position, you're willing to pay a market maker some spread just to take this position. Are you losing money on this trade?
Yeah, but I think this is a good point to make, because a lot of people say this, and it's a reasonable point, that maybe the LPs are actually targeting some kind of rebalancing portfolio, And so they're willing to pay the market makers some amount. Are they willing to pay the market makers as much as they're paying right now is another question. I think if you look at other to hedge this and other ways to make the rebalancing portfolio, you could pay the market makers a lot less than you do as an LP right now. And I think that's exactly what the kind of LVR discussion is about, is how do we make it as cheap as possible for LPs to make a rebalancing portfolio? And oftentimes, if you look at makers on centralized exchanges, they're also losing money because they want to trade one way or because they want to have a kind of rebalancing in that way. Not all makers are like profit-making shops, right? So I think this is like an important distinction to make. Even if you say these guys are looking for a rebalancing portfolio, they're not necessarily looking to lose as much rebalancing as they are right now.
Understand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I remember Frontier Tech has a research piece about like 20% of their MEV, 20% of the validator payment comes from SEC-STAX arbitrage. And I think it's gonna be the super important part of MEV profit today. So, and I think SMG also mentioned like top of block MEV done by searcher and builder entity. So I'm just wondering like what is like top of a block here, and how do you think of the future market share of SEC-STAX arbitrage?
So I guess the question is like, what percent of top of block revenue is? I think this is cutting out. All right. The question is, what percentage of top of block revenue comes from centralized exchange, decentralized exchange arbitrage, or statistical arbitrage, or whatever you want to call it? I think, I don't know. Maybe Tom, do you have an answer to that, or just ballpark it? Give us a wide confidence interval.
Sorry, what percentage of like revenue comes from SEC-STAX arbs versus atomic?
Yeah, sure. Or sandwich, I think, is the other one in there.
I think that's hard to answer. Do you mean by like how much the bots make as well, or how much is paid?
So this is like a very tricky question, right? I guess very complicated question. How much? Most of it is often taken by like the builder in the PBS auction, not by the bots, right? So it's hard to disentangle that question because a lot of the transactions are integrated with the builder, and so it looks like they're paying almost all the profit or all the profit to their own builder, but of course that's paying themselves, and you have to really go look at the PBS auction to see how much revenue it is. I will say I can't answer that question because of this entanglement issue, but I can say like the revenue on like kind of moderate volatility blocks where there's a lot of competition, 80% of top of block revenue about goes to the proposer and to gas. But when it's really, really volatile, that number drops a lot because then there's fewer and fewer competitors who have enough money on chain to take it.
All right, let's start the next question. So, what do you think about like a Telegram bot? And it's like a good trend for like trader use a Telegram bot in the Asia area. I'm not sure about like US and like Western, but in Asia, everyone want to like play the meme coin, use like a Telegram bot. So they are like offering some MEVV like support, like some reorg protector, so protection. So I'm curious about what you think about like a Telegram bot and those kind of like a trading tool in the either like impact for the trader, searcher and builder, or what do you like a general thought about this kind of stuff?
I think it's good, right? Well, it's good, right? I mean, like for the longest time, we've been trying to fight over the same users in the DeFi space. Suddenly, someone comes along and bring in a whole bunch of new users right in. I think that's good for everyone, right? So I think that's point number one. And whatever they're doing with what anti-MEV, anti-RUG, all this, right? It's nothing, black magic, whatever, right? It's actually just the same technology that we've been using, right? Private transactions, bundles, right? So if you do study all the, Udibot, Banana Gun, Mastro, right? They are using the same kind of technologies that we have been doing as searchers, right? It's the same thing, right? I think it's good for the space.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think there's two perspectives. Like one of them is, hey, these guys are trading, they're making really bad trades. from an MEV perspective, that's good. It generates a lot of MEV. From a private order flow perspective, this is like very sought after order flow, and we already have these bots sending to various different places because, of course, people want this order flow. So I think it's good for us on the panel, but not necessarily good for the users who are actually using it. Although people love to use slot machines, and they lose a lot of money on slot machines, and they like it a lot. So.
Yeah, I think from my perspective as a user, I think Telegram bots is really unsafe because you give your private key away. And in terms of like anti-MEV or MEV protection, minimization, we got a lot of alternatives like map blocker, map share, or shutter network, like structural encryption, something like that. But for searchers, it does do a lot of copy trading, so it can bring a lot of order flow. It can bring a lot of like trading volume to the market. So it just depends on from whose perspective, searcher or user.
So I'm a holder of Unibar token, so I may disagree with what Jiawei said. Banana Gang actually pays 3,000 ETH bribery for all the ETH builder. I think Rsync get the most of it. Sorry. It's natural, like trader onto like one step earlier to add in the pool or like sniffing the meme coins, just a little bit ahead of other people. Even though like Unibot only have like $1 million trading volume per day, but they have like 2,000 retail traders, which I think Mastro and Unibot also sign private order flow sell to either Blocknative or Blocks routes, which they can make extra bucks on the order flow. And I think maybe Tom can add on top of that. So how important this kind of banana gun or bribery actually helps you guys from the builder side of profit?
I mean, like it's a pretty commoditized order flow, right? Like everybody gets it, or a large enough subset of people get it that it's like not really like exclusive to anyone. So it's hard to profit off of this. I guess my general thoughts, which is like not really related to this panel, but my general thoughts are that these Telegram trading bots have like really pioneered this like intent space. Like projects are coming out and saying, oh, I want to build this intent, and then like these Telegram bots have done it in such a better way than everybody else.
Yeah, I agree with that. So yeah, like the other question is about like in the MEV supply chain, do you think like a searcher, builder, and relayer, they are like competitive or like collaborative? Like they just like compete for the revenue, or they are more like collaborate with everyone to generate the revenue?
I think by design, right, it's supposed to be collaborative, but today we are seeing a lot of competition because it's being merged, right? The roles themselves are being merged, right? So a searcher and builder separately are collaborative, but a searcher is in competition with a searcher builder, right? So I think that's what we're seeing more in the space today.
I think it's both in a sense, and it should always be both, because let's say I run a builder, and imagine that we have a system where the relay downstream takes some profit from my block. Now, the incentives are a bit skewed for me, because now I'm going to try and figure out, like, how do I not pay them and keep that money for myself, right? And whenever there is any kind of situation like this, where different entities are, like, sharing the same pool of funds, there's always going to be some kind of competition.
Tom, do you want to say something? No, Max, do you want to say something?
So like, the question is whether like relays and builders
Relay, builder, and searcher, like in the MEV supply chain, yeah, are they like collaborate or like the competition? Yeah.
So I think like in the idealized model, the kind of searchers are competing with other searchers, the builders are competing with other builders, and the relays are competing with other relays. And that's not necessarily what's going on because you have integration. And that means that a searcher who's submitting to a builder may also be competing with that same entity on the same opportunity. And that can be an issue, even though they'll say like, hey, we treat these the same. But of course, you know, they are able to take profit in the bundle merge if you're integrated, you're able to take profit in the PBS auction if you're integrated. If you're not, then you have to reserve it for yourself in the bundle merge. And so you're kind of competing with the person who you're sending the order flow to. And of course, we're all trying to predict the price. So if you know my signal because I sent it to you, then that can also give you an advantage.
Anyone? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think relays are mostly double trusted and neutral third party. Like we have ultrasound relay, we have optimistic relay, and then like VPS from BlockX route. And in terms of builders, I think it depends on different builder types. For example, Flashbot, their neutral builder simply like deliver all the MEV to proposers, basically a bundle merging algorithms. And we have other strategy builder that aiming for profit. And we have like search builder integrator, like the entity that being searcher and builder at the same time. So I think mostly the competition is between builders and each other. And searchers, they just collaborate with different builders to get a better execution. So basically, this is the landscape that I have in mind.
So, okay, so if you were a searcher running a really long tail strat and you pay 100 ETH and you submit it to one block builder and you see this one block builder makes 90 ETH of profit, are you not in competition with the builder? Like, should you not have paid less? Should you not have figured out like, there's like a mismatch of incentives here, right? Like you shouldn't have actually paid your builder this much and they should have made no money because you had this exclusively.
I agree. If you're competing on a long tail strategy that the builder isn't competing on, then you don't. If you're not competing with anybody else, then sorry, this is like cutting out. Can I? Okay. So if you're not competing with the builder on the strategy and you're just competing with other searchers on the strategy, I don't think there's necessarily a problem. The problem, searcher also competing on the same strategy, right? And when the searcher and the builder are competing on the same strategy is when there's some potential there, right?
I think Tom's point is there will always be some competition, right? Because if the builder makes the money, the searcher makes less, right? So I think this is what you're saying, that there will always be some sort of competition inside here, and well, it depends on the mechanics, how best you carve out this, right? So, well, some competition is definitely good, right? It will, force more people to come in, and the idea here is that if, let's say, now there's going to be more builders in the space, right? Maybe you end up having to pay less because there's more intense competition.
So have you guys seen the dictator? When he's running in the race, he has the starting pistol. So he like pulls the pistol because he starts for himself basically, and then he uses the pistol and shoots the other guy that's like running next to him in the leg. So, and then of course he wins the race. I wouldn't say the builders are shooting the other competing searchers who are submitting to them in the leg, but I would say it's almost like they have a slight advantage where they're doing the starting pistol and they know when they're going to start it. So I think there's like definitely some structural advantages beyond just latency to running your own builder, and one of them comes from this common value thing that we're all trying to predict the price. And so getting kind of the price from everybody, oh my goodness, getting the price from like everybody else and like what they think it is certainly going to be an advantage. Although I know there's some kind of disagreements on this. Like some people will say it's more of a private value thing. We have our own view of what our execution is, and that's different for every searcher. But certainly there's some common component here where we're all trying to compete, like predict this price, and getting other people's signals sent to you probably helps a lot.
All right. Yeah. Let's move to the next question. So anyone want to talk about anything else about this? No? Okay. So like, only have 5 minutes. Okay. Okay. One last question. Okay, let's ask this one. So any suggestion for like people wanted to like know the math or the MEV ecosystem or the supply chain and like study the PBS stuff? Because for myself, I studied this like before the Ethereum CC. I take a month, almost like 2 months to read some material, read some like paper. I feel like, there's not like guideline or not like any, there's not, or it's not like the white paper. That's not like anything like a document, like a carefully describe it. So any like some suggestion or like you want to say to the new in the math?
I guess I'll shameless plug some of our own papers, which are on this topic. So we have one on centralization and private order flow in PBS. We have another one, censorship resistance in on-chain auctions, which is interesting for PBS. I think the Flashbots docs are really good. A lot of builders like will not even bother to build their own docs, and they'll just like send you to the Flashbots docs. So that's a pretty good endorsement of those if you're more on the technical side and want to learn about it. And then, of course, you have to be on Twitter. You have to be following everybody who tweets about this stuff because that's like one of the best ways. And then the final way, which is like trickier but maybe is the best return, is to like go in Telegram and like try to get some good chats going with searchers. And like you can message them late at night and like hope that they've had a few drinks because then they'll tell you more.
All right. Jiawei, do you want to answer this question?
Yeah, I think my take is like as a user, you need to be sandwiched, and then you feel you need to be sandwiched at first, and then you get angry and you say, "Hey, I got to understand this situation. Why I'm sandwiched." So in terms of resources, I think Flashbot's ladder and Flashbot transparency report are super good. They just collect all this like research and Twitter thread all together. And also, they host event everywhere, and we always collect all the like slides, recordings, so it's a good source of learning. And also, there are a lot of dashboard like MEV boost picks, MEV relay scan.io is always good to dive into this visualization, also provided by SMG to dive into this space with more statistics that you can learn from.
I recommend Jiawei's research report as well. Actually, it was a pretty comprehensive on the MEV supply chain, and also our researcher Ifan wrote a paper about MEV builder landscape at our Twitter account as well. If everyone wants to read more about MEV, there's MEV.whatthefuck. Tina from Flashbot actually organized that forum really well. They have like stack, they have like videos from different MEV days from Denver to Osaka. And also people can check out the Elgin file, which is check out the MEV profit on a daily basis.
Yep. Let's go to Howe.
I guess my advice is going to be more towards a searcher, I guess, trying to get into the space. But I mean, like, I think anyone in the space can benefit from this. I think there is no like real substitute for having skin in the game, trying things out yourself, because no one really wants to tell you anything that they didn't think you didn't really already know. No one is like, I don't know, I guess like there's a lot of disinformation out there. Like, yeah, there's no real substitute to just like having skin in the game, figuring out like, oh, this weird thing is happening. Like, why is this happening? Okay, but you're not going to see that unless you are like, you have a reason to be looking at everything.
Yeah, I think they have all mentioned a lot of good resources, right? I think the only thing I can add on is just like what Tom says, right? Try it out, right? After you get, sandwiched a few times, after, your transactions fail a few times, your blocks fail a few times, you'll figure out what's going on. There's actually a lot of resources now compared to, like, a couple of years back, right? A lot of things are available, Flashbots, right? Blocknative, Bloxroute, there's tons of things that's actually available. So it's quite easy right now.
Yeah, I think just I want to second Tom's point, but from the researcher perspective, which is that if you're looking at the chain, you're going to have a lot more insights, and you can you just look at the chain, just look at some blocks, just try and figure it out yourself, and then you can go talk to whatever your drunk searchers in your DMs, and if you come with a hypothesis that's correct, usually you can get a pretty good conversation. If you just come like, oh, what's going on? I have no idea. They're not going to tell you anything, right? Yeah. So I think as a researcher, you also want to be getting involved looking at the data. Of course, if you want to, you should also trade, but I'm personally not into that. But it's certainly a good thing to do if you really want to understand a specific vertical. But I think from a research perspective, it does take a lot of time to actually develop a competitive bot. And oftentimes you won't necessarily have the resources. Like, for example, I'm not going to start a SexDex, profitable SexDex operation from scratch without some structural advantages or some team or something like that. So even just looking at the chain can give you some approximation of that.
All right, so read the research, check the blog, and follow the Twitter. So just please follow those guys' Twitter. All right, thanks for the guys today. We are running out of time, so yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for listening.